the Madman!
Welcome to another Forged in the Barrens card review. And as usual, I like to front load it with a card that I think is really, really strong. This might be the best card of the set that I've seen so far. And it's the Priest Mercenary Legendary, Recara. 4 mana, 4/4, Battle Cry. If you've restored health this turn, deal that much damage to all enemy minions. Baseline here, you heal yourself with the hero power, and then you play Recara. That's a 6 mana 4/4 that deals 2 damage to all enemy minions. Whatever, that's alright, but nothing to write home about. But where she gets really good is Renew is still in. 5 mana 4/4 which deals 3 damage to all enemy minions. That's pretty sweet. But what if you combo it with a card that originally people were like, whatever. But I was like, wait, I love this card against aggro. What if you combo it with Desperate Prayer? That's 0 mana, restore 5 health to each hero, also known as restoring 10 health. Against an aggro deck, you'll just win the game if you ever pull off that combo. Absolutely incredible and insane. I do feel very great confidence in a priest value control deck working. The type of deck that will either try to attrition out the aggro decks, or they actually have a viable win condition. You can have Cthulhu as your win condition in Priest, and naturally that just adds 5 more cards into your deck, so you basically, your win condition is making sure you don't die before your opponent falls asleep. And that's actually really true. And by the way, that was how I was usually playing Magic the Gathering as a blue-white player. So I anticipate that I myself will be playing a decent amount of Recara. Here's the Droid Mercenary, Duff Roon Totem, 3 mana 2/4 legendary. After you cast a nature spell, you have another friendly minion +2/+2. I could see Duff being pretty good in either a token druid deck, which has a bunch of spells, many of which are nature, I'm sure. Landscaping is still in, and that does work if you want to do a 6 mana combo. Play Guff and then play Landscaping. Since this says after you cast a nature spell, one of the treants will get +2/+2. Not bad. But yeah, token decks have a bunch of spells. They like getting buffs. Guff might fit. Guff could also fit mid-range decks. Mid-range decks might own even more spells. And there's a number of cheap spells or even free spells in Druid. And along with those two archetypes, this expansion is really pushing another archetype for Druid, Taunt Druid. And Razormane Battleguard could be a key part of that deck, as a 2 mana 2/3, which says the first taunt minion you play each turn costs 2 less. So that means if you play this guy on the same turn that you're going to play a taunt, it's a 0 mana 2/3. This could lead to some explosive starts where you play Razormane Battleguard on 2, and you immediately play Bonechewer Brawler for 2 mana 2/3s on turn 2. Of which one is almost a must kill, but it's behind a taunt, and this guy has natural synergy in that generally he's going to be behind a taunt. This card also leads into Dreaming Drake very well, because suppose you play him and you don't actually have a follow-up play. On the next turn, Dreaming Drake could cost 1 mana, and even if not corrupted yet, you can play even a 2 mana card to corrupt the Dreaming Drake, and then you can just play the Dreaming Drake for 1 mana. Will we see Plague Maul the Rotting also in that deck? 4 mana 3/4 for Druid. After a friendly minion with taunt dies, summon a new copy of it without taunt. Now just remember, just because you're building a taunt archetype deck doesn't mean you have to put in every single card that has synergy with these taunt things. A Plague Maul might require just too many things to go right to put in the deck. Great value if you get to play him while sending any taunt essentially to die. But I think that's a little bit too ambitious. There's going to be a lot of decks which just are happy to use a spell to kill your 4 mana 3/4. For Demon Hunter, it looks like they continue their theme with some Sigil. It's a Sigil of Silence for 0 mana. At the start of your next turn, silence all enemy minions. Now I'm not entirely sure if you can actually have both of the Sigils revealed and in play at the same time, both effects ready to go off. But fortunately that answer doesn't really matter that much, right? Because Sigil of Silence looks weak enough that's not to be played. But wait, that was my initial thought, and then I started thinking, is it worth putting in like 1 insurance card into your deck to ensure that you can get through taunts, you can get through essentially any trickery, and then kill your opponent that following turn? I could see a world where a lot of Demon Hunter decks set up by playing Sigil of Silence with the intent of winning next turn, and then there's very little the opponent can do to stop you from winning because you're silencing all their minions. So less useless than I had originally thought when I first saw the card, but might still be too specific of a use to actually warrant putting into your deck. Demon Hunter also continues its theme of Death Rattle synergy. Vengeful Spirit, 4 mana 4/4 with Outcast, draw 2 Death Rattle minions. That's extremely strong when Outcast. I could see this as like one of the big reasons why you want to have a Death Rattle deck as Demon Hunter. I think there's not much to say here other than this is one of the major cards that makes Death Rattle Demon Hunter viable, and you definitely put this into a deck where you plan to have Death Rattles. Works in great combination to Death Speaker Blackthorne, 7 mana 3/6 legendary, Battlecry, summon 3 Death Rattle minions that cost 5 or less from your deck. This is kind of similar to Razorfin Beastmaster, which summons a Death Rattle minion that costs 4 or less from your hand, and again, you don't have to put in all of the Death Rattle synergies in the deck like this. This card wants you to have 4-drop Death Rattles in particular. That card makes you want to have 5 mana Death Rattles in particular, because then you're getting the most bang for your buck. Now, I have no doubt that we're going to see an actual Death Rattle Demon Hunter card that's good to include in this archetype. So, remains to be seen. Probably a neutral or 2 as well that'll have that kind of Death Rattle. I think if Blizzard is printing a legendary like this, there's precedent in saying that this deck should at least seem like it will be viable, and then you'll put this card into the Death Rattle deck and it'll be great in it. Rogue gets Paralytic Poison. 1 mana, give your weapon +1 attack, and your hero is immune while attacking. Originally I didn't think much of it. It's like worse Deadly Poison, right? Because Deadly Poison is +2 attack. But if there is this new value rogue or control rogue archetype to be had, then your health does matter a lot in Rogue, and the more health you gain by not losing it, the longer you can go. So this is in a way like Rogue healing. And from that perspective, if there's some sort of value Rogue deck that's actually worth it, I could see Paralytic Poison being played on your weapons, which are there to get you value over time. Paladin gets the rank spell, Conviction. Rank 1 is 1 mana, give a random friendly minion +3 attack. Rank 2 is 1 mana, on 5 mana you can give 2 random friendly minions +3 attack. And when you're at the 10 mana point, for 1 mana, you can give 3 random friendly minions +3 attack. That's a lot of stats for a 1 mana card. And I could see this being played in a token deck, an aggressive deck, a tempo deck, because 2 +3 attacks for 1 mana is quite a lot of attack. That represents 1 mana deal 6, but not only deal 6, deal even more damage repeatedly if they stick around. In order for Conviction to be good, you basically have to have minions ready to attack. So, clearly meant for the aggro tempo paladin. In Warrior Land, we have Warsaw Envoy, 1 mana 1/3. Frenzy, gain +1 attack for each damaged character. Note that this is damaged characters, which does include you, and you will usually be a freebie, and the card itself will usually be a freebie because by definition it survived and is therefore damaged. That's a 1/3 that will get to 3 attack if it survives once. That's pretty good. Speaking of these frenzies and multiple cards, these cards really bring Aug Merchants back and could make Aug Merchants rather good. And we've got Warrior's Mercenary. This is kind of the poster girl for the Mercenaries. I've seen Recara's face on a lot of these posters. Recara, 3 mana 2/3 warrior legendary with Rush. After a friendly minion attacks and survives, give it +1/+1. So my first instinct when seeing this was like, wow, that's terrible. Bad stats, and how is Recara ever going to attack something and survive? But note, she can get +1/+1 if she does. So one of the things that I missed on my first read through is that this does affect minions you have on the board that just attack face, because when you attack the face, you don't take damage, and that'll make the minion survive. So it's like a delayed +1/+1 to your minions if you send them at the face. Recara's place seems to be in some sort of tempo minion-based warrior deck. Tough to visualize exactly what that deck looks like right now. But I'm not entirely sure that that deck would include Recara, because you do have to have a pretty specific situation in play to make her good. Requirement 1, you have to have minions on the board. Requirement 2, you can't just have summon them because you're going to play Recara and then use those minions probably to attack the face, so it's probably going to be an aggressive deck. And can an aggressive deck afford to play a 3-mana 2/3, which doesn't do much the turn she's played? Not sure. Worth noting is that this card does have a good synergy with Warmaul Challenger. Each attack will give the Warmaul Challenger +1/+1. Warmaul Challenger is already in addition to most of the Tempo Warrior decks out there, so yeah, maybe there's a combination there that's powerful enough to include Recara after all. The neutrals shown in this reveal are actually rather interesting. Let's start with Barrens Blacksmith. 5-mana 3/5, Frenzy, give your other minions +2/+2. So this card has one of the strongest Frenzy abilities I've seen. Giving your other minions +2/+2 is something that's worth like somewhere around 4 to 6 mana. So that effect is now neutral and comes with a free 3/5 alongside that Frenzy. Now obviously you have to work a little bit to get that Frenzy to activate, and you're probably going to want to activate it the same turn you play Blacksmith. But here's where Og Merchant is really good. You play this, you play an Og Merchant. That Og Merchant is immediately a 1-mana 4/3. You deal 1 damage to the Barrens Blacksmith. Everything gets +2/+2. Pretty sweet. Thankfully, and reminder, Frenzy can only be activated once. Morshan Watchpost. It's a neutral 3-mana 3/5, can't attack. After your opponent plays a minion, summon a 2/2 grunt. This actually reminds me a lot of Tark Reaper. This basically has taunt, because if your opponent is any sort of tempo deck, they're going to have minions. And giving your opponent a 2/2 each time you play a minion is a really heavy attack. They've got to kill this Watchpost. So it's basically a 3-mana 3/5 of taunt with major benefits, because if you do play this onto an empty board, your opponent's usually going to have to give you a few grunts, in which case this card has insane stats for the value. So clearly this is a very strong card in the value or control deck matchup against aggro or tempo decks, and that's where this Watchpost shines. Crossroads Watchpost. It's 4-mana 4/6 with can't attack. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, give your minions +1/+1. It's another interesting Watchpost. This one less good than the other Watchpost because most of the value or control decks aren't going to have wide boards of minions. But note that this one does buff itself. If you are running a value or control deck that somehow does summon a bunch of minions, I could see the Crossroads Watchpost making the cut. Or if you simply wanted to increase your Watchpost count in order to play Cargill Battlescar, the legendary with a payoff for Watchpost. 7-mana 5/5, Battlecry, summon a 5/5 lookout for each Watchpost you've summoned this game. So suddenly, that Crossroads Watchpost, which doesn't look spectacular, now it comes with a free 5/5 when you play the Cargill Battlescar, and that makes the card substantially better. I think if you're running Cargill Battlescar, you probably should be, at minimum, running 2 Watchposts, which will probably be the Morshan Watchpost if you're running exactly 2. I feel like 2 is a little low because then you're only probably summoning 1 lookout. And 7 mana for 2 5/5s isn't that impressive, but once you've summoned 2 Watchposts, that starts to look impressive. I don't know if there's going to be another Watchpost. Maybe this entire thing is a pipe dream, but I look at this and I see incredible value. So that's kind of cool. You too can now play tower defense in your Hearthstone, coming soon with the Barrens.